Well, what's up, folks? What's up, Tiger fans? Welcome into a brand new Monday afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is indeed Monday, March 30th, 2026. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Excited for the show today. Got a lot to get to, a lot to cover. Before we get into everything, want to remind you, of course, about our wonderful daily sponsors over at Shield Heating and Cooling, the best AC company in the business today. Remember that number 225 Bayou, 225 Bayou, BAYOU. You call the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling today at that number. Tell them you heard about them from the show, and you will be receiving free AC system clean and checks for every AC system in your home, courtesy of the best AC team in the business today and our wonderful daily sponsors over at Shield Heating and Cooling, who we greatly love and appreciate for being the title sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. What is up, Christian Cowley? What is up, my friend? How are you? It's good to see you in the chat, my brother. Thank you for tuning in. Thank all of you fine folks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. We got a lot to cover today. We are going to talk LSU baseball. We're going to talk big SEC series win over Kentucky in the box this weekend. The first SEC series win of the season for LSU baseball. Jay Johnson and the boys. What is up, Goose Sports? Thank you for tuning in, my friend. But first, I want to lead off with Will Wade. I was actually in person in the PMAC today for Will Wade's introductory press conference. Got a few things just general I want to talk about before we get into baseball. I was there. I was in person. It was awesome, man. The vibes are high, man. Like the vibes are high in LSU athletics in general, but especially with LSU men's basketball. And it was just great to see everybody in the media, the fans out there in the stands today. I was up there, and my favorite thing about all of this and my favorite thing about Will Wade's press conference today, among many other things, is just how you can see in what he does and how he speaks about the state of Louisiana and how much love he has for the state of Louisiana, saying stuff like, Will Wade, he's not from here. He's not born in this state, but he's basically adopted this state as his home, as his hometown. I mean, as his home based on the years he spent here at LSU, the years he spent here at McNeese, and like just raising a family here, his family being here for years and years. Like I just love hearing about his love for this state because man, being born and raised here, being like this is my home, this is my state. I've always lived in Baton Rouge, and just like a guy coming to LSU, not from this state, and just this state completely falling in love with the coach, and this coach completely falling in love with this state. That's what's happened. Like that's what it is. Like when you talk about boot up, when you talk about Louisiana, when you talk about LSU and men's basketball, look, the bottom line, folks, is men's basketball has been irrelevant over the past couple of years under Matt McMahon. I mean, you never made an NCAA tournament in 4 seasons. The 4 seasons Matt McMahon was here, you have that record, and then like his best record here was what he went 9-9 in the SEC one year and got bounced out in the first round of the NIT. Like and Will Wade is a guy like I see. I'm active on X a lot, or at least I try to be, and I see a lot of people who obviously don't like LSU saying, "What has Will Wade done? What has he done?" Well, folks, LSU hasn't been relevant since Will Wade left. They haven't been relevant on the men's basketball stage. There was complete apathy for this men's basketball program this past year under Matt McMahon and for the past few years under Matt McMahon. But this state, Louisiana, LSU, completely loves and has accepted Will Wade as their own. And like he talks about that, talking about alignment. He mentioned, from bringing Wade Roos and Heath Schroyer here, which was a big part, no doubt, a big part of getting Will Wade here was bringing those two guys here because they worked with him at McNeese. He's worked with Virgil Osbury here when he was here before. He even mentioned, thanks to Governor Jeff Landry, like the buy-in and the alignment at LSU is real. It's not just in the athletic department. It's not just with the donors. It's with the state. It's with the government. It's everywhere. And like in this era of rev share, of NIL, of all of these things, like LSU has spent the money and they are spending the money and will keep spending the money because Louisiana has problems. Like, we can admit that. We can admit that we have problems as a state, that the state of Louisiana has problems, but we are great at what we are we are great at what we are good at. We are great at partying, we are great at food, and we are great at athletics. We are great at those things. And in this era where you got to spin big to do the big things in college athletics, LSU has done that. There was one guy, like Virgil Osbury mentioned, how there was one guy that they wanted, that they were targeting from the get-go to bring to this men's basketball program. That's exactly the same thing. There was one guy that they were targeting, I know they interviewed other candidates, or, we're looking at other candidates, but there was one guy that they were going after, and that was Lane Kiffin. That was the big, guy, the guy that everybody wanted, and you got him. And all of these people wanted Will Wade back. I mean, fans have been talking about it for years. Fans have been talking about bringing Will Wade back for years, and now he's back, and just I can't wait. Talking about winning now, talking about winning it, in year one, possibly going back to the NCAA tournament in year one, because Will Wade's been here before. Like, he knows what it's like to coach in the SEC. So he talked about how the learning curve isn't going to be as steep for him because of that. He also talked about how, because of, certain things he was dealing with, under the last few years at LSU, how he was like the roster and everything. They were basically held to like 60% capacity because of like restrictions and things that they were going through. Well, all of the stuff that Will Wade got in trouble for that eventually led to his firing, all of that stuff you have to do now to win. And LSU is more willing than anybody to do it. I mean, they have the resources to do it. And Will Wade is going to do big things here. He's going to do really big things here. And the number one thing for me is, man, just his love for the state, like his love for the state of Louisiana, adopting it as his home. And like, Louisiana has adopted him as like a son. Like, you're talking about two, like LSU, Louisiana, Will Wade, two sides that have just come together and love each other. And man, Will Wade talking about how LSU's not for everybody. And Will Wade is obviously not for everybody. I mean, just look at X. Just look at some of the people, talking heads on ESPN who are unhappy about this situation, and stuff like that. But LSU is for Will Wade, and Will Wade is for LSU. And to have him back, man, like I said, I mean, before him, it was the most recent success you had was when John Brady was here and you went to the Final Four under John Brady. But I was like 2-3 years old when that happened. So Will Wade was the best I ever had, and the PMAC was popping and rocking when Will Wade was here. I mean, he took you to 3 NCAA tournaments. Like I said, folks, you can question, has Will Wade gone to a Final Four or done anything like that? No, folks, but he's a proven winner. He's gone to 8 NCAA tournaments with 4 different universities, from BCU to LSU to McNeese to NC State. Like, folks, like Will Wade is a dang good coach. He's a dang good coach. And I'm excited for what he's going to do at LSU. And I'm excited with the alignment, with the buy-in. We talk about the buy-in and the alignment all the time with football and Lane Kiffin, and now it is there with men's basketball and Will Wade. And I can't wait. Like, I really can't wait to see what Will Wade is able to do here, because I think big things are in store. And it was just awesome. Again, just being in the PMAC today, watching everything, just being there. It was awesome. It was awesome. And I just love how much Will Wade loves and, cherishes the state of Louisiana, and they cherish him back. And it was awesome to be there today to witness everything. And gonna be a fun few months. I know the transfer portal opens up next Monday for men's basketball. We'll talk about that and everything and keep up with that. But yeah, just the guy everybody wanted, the guy fans have been clamoring for because of how much. I mean, you don't just talk about Will Wade in terms of his coaching ability. He also talked about LSU and Louisiana in terms of just like their mojo and their swagger, man. Like Louisiana, LSU, Will Wade, you think of swagger, you think of, mojo and all of that and energy, and just it mixes so well. It mixes so unbelievably well between the state of Louisiana and Coach Will Wade, and it's phenomenal to have him back. Let's get into the comments here real quick. Just seeing what's up. What's up, Paulie J? What's up, Paulie J? You're here at just the right time, my friend, because we're about to get into a little bit of LSU baseball. Um, Look, LSU baseball, great weekend for the boys. Great weekend that they desperately needed with what they have coming up in SEC play. We've talked about it before. 3 of your next 4 SEC series are on the road. You go to Knoxville to play Tennessee this weekend. Then you go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. You play at home against Texas A&M, and then you go to Starkville to play a top 10, top 5 Mississippi State team. That's a brutal stretch. So you really, really needed to take this series at home, and you were able to do that. And man, just generally talking about things, we'll get into a few details, but we're going to try to be a little bit more general in the recap today. I love the fight that you saw from this team this weekend. The fight that you saw from this baseball team, because 3-6 was staring this team right in the face on Sunday. It was staring this team right in the face on Sunday when you go down 7-0 after the top of the third in that game. It was staring you right in the face after Friday when you lost game 1 of the series. Like, you lost game 1 of the series, and you're like, oh no, you're going to 3-6, and now you got this tough road stretch, 3 out of your next 4 series on the road, and you're like, oh crap, this is not good. And just what you saw on Saturday, and specifically what you saw on Sunday, just, man, it's the fight from this team, like the bounce back, to be able to claw back, to be able to not give up, and to just go, like, just win anyway. You go down 7-0 after the top of the third inning, and then from the bottom of the third inning on yesterday, you outscored Kentucky 17-3 from the bottom of the third inning on. And we're about to get into a few things there. Goose Sports. Pitchers need to cut down on the walks. Luckily, Kentucky could not pitch Sunday. Yeah, we're going to get into that, because that Sunday game was absolutely wild. It was absolutely a wild game Sunday. More general thoughts. I'm very encouraged. Obviously, I don't know how you couldn't be encouraged, but I'm very encouraged about this offense. I'm very encouraged about this lineup and what they were able to do this weekend, because not only did they on Saturday and Sunday play more Jay Johnson type baseball, but when you look at this team, you knew at the beginning of the season it was going to be Curiel in center, Stanfield in left when he was healthy, Jake Brown in right. You were going to have Milam as your shortstop, the best defensive shortstop in the country. Zach York has been playing at first base for most of the season. I talked last week about Omar Cerna stepping up. He's been one of your best hitters, best players at the plate over the past number of weeks. He caught all 3 games over the weekend against Kentucky. I don't know exactly what's up with Cade Arrambide. We didn't see Cade Arrambide at all this weekend. It was just Omar Cerna starting at catcher, but I don't think Jay has really revealed anything yet about what's going on with Beatty potentially. But anyway, Cerna has stepped up and looked pretty good since the start of SEC play coming into his own. And this weekend, man, you talked about throughout this, stretch of over a month now, the inconsistency of this offense, the inconsistency of this offense. And besides Jake Brown being one of the best players in the country, the best player on this team, I talked, after the Vanderbilt series, I talked about him being a Golden Spikes Award finalist. Like I talked about all that, right? And Cerna has stepped up and Curiel can be Curiel, but you really have struggled to find consistency 1 through 9 in this lineup outside of maybe Jake Brown, Omar Cerna, and maybe Derek Curiel. But mainly, like even you've seen inconsistency throughout this lineup, throughout this month. Really since you left Jacksonville, after the first 8 games of the season. This weekend, though, you need guys to step up. You need guys to just step up, go out there and take it, man. And you had that this weekend, man. You've seen a lot of rotation at second base and third base throughout this season between, Caraway has been there, Simpson's been there, a few other guys have been there as well. But I feel like two guys at second, like Seth Dardar at second base and John Pearson at third base have just taken those roles, man. And I don't think you take them out of lineup for the rest of the season unless they go through a bad stretch because those guys, I mean, Seth Dardar was unbelievable this weekend. He was my MVP of the weekend for this series against Kentucky. And I love to see I loved to see Seth Dardar playing like he was playing. And John Pearson has been playing really good as well lately and really solidified that third base role. So one of the things that stood out to me is I think you're really solidifying your lineup. I think you really are solidifying your lineup, especially at that third base spot with Pearson and that second base spot with Dardar. And just a few guys, really 4 or 5 guys that stood out to me this weekend. First of all, I said Seth Dardar was my MVP of the weekend. I mean, even we'll talk about it in a little bit. Even when your offense struggled, for the majority Friday night, Jackson Jelkin, Seth Dardar hit 3 doubles. Seth Dardar hit 3 doubles Friday night. And then yesterday, he has a hit, or he has a single, a double, and then he hits the 3-run bomb in the 6th inning that gives you the lead, the 11-10 lead in that game yesterday. Like, Seth Dardar was awesome this weekend, man. And there's players, and I've talked with Paul about this before. There's players in baseball and really in sports, when you're a fan of a team, there's players that you gravitate towards. They may not be the best players on the team. Like I'll give you, but they're guys you gravitate towards energy in because of that guy for me and back is Gavin Dugas. I'm trying to see. Hey Alex, hey, see you in the chat, Alex. Thank you. Y'all, can y'all? I think we're good. Somebody let me know. My guy in 2023 was Gavin. Now, is Gavin Dugas as good as Dylan Cruz or like no, but I just loved Gavin. He was my loved Josh Pearson, as good as he may not have been as powerful. I can point to Dugas. I can point. I love this team in just his and a kid always wanting to play for a state. Has played a lot and hit a homer off of Cade Anderson between KSU season, and then always wanted to Hello? Here? Here? Hold on. Oh. All right. Somebody put in the chat, are we good? We good, Junior? Okay. All right. Let's get back into the LSU baseball discussion. I'm going to start from the top pretty much. I apologize for that, folks. We are back. My Wi-Fi went out and that sucks, but it is what it is. Okay. So yeah, the fight you saw from this team, and you really saw some guys step up that you really needed to step up, specifically Seth Dardar and John Pearson, what they've been able to do at second base and third base, really solidifying those roles. I think that's really, really important for this team, and just being able to do that. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah. Prepping for the show, brother. Walking off talk. Yeah. Paulie J is doing a show at 6. Y'all should definitely tune into that. Sorry. I'm good. Yeah. So let's see where we were here. So Dardar was the MVP of the weekend for me. Dardar had 3 doubles on Friday, even at the game against Jackson Jelkin that you struggled in. Dardar had 3 doubles. And then he comes back on Sunday and he has a single, he has a double, and then he hits the 3-run bomb that gives you the lead late in that game, and in the 6th inning of that game, the 11-10 lead from Dardar. So again, Dardar is a guy who Louisiana guy, always wanted to play at LSU, and just a guy I've rooted for the whole season because of just always wanted to come play at LSU as a Louisiana guy. He gets here, and just what a breakout, standout weekend. Again, he was the best player on the field this weekend, in my mind, said Dardar. John Pearson, John Pearson hit the grand slam on Sunday. That really got you back into that game. It was 7-1, and that grand slam made it 7-5, and it got you back into it. So that was very, very important. You also had Mason Braun on Saturday. Mason Braun had an RBI double and 3-run homer on Saturday. So Braun was the freshman that really stepped up for you. Chris Stanfield on Sunday went 4 for 5 with a double and an RBI on Sunday. Talked about Pearson. So I think Pearson with the grand slam, man, with the 3 doubles on Friday, the homer to give you the lead on Sunday. Chris Stanfield was great. He went 4 for 5 yesterday. Stanny did, so that was awesome to see. Mason Braun, the freshman, stepping up with a RBI double and a 3-run bomb on Saturday. Like, you needed some more guys to help you and a step up behind, like Jake Brown and Omar Cerna. And I think Pearson, Dardar, Stanny, who's always been reliable. Stanny's one of the most veteran, experienced guys in the SEC. So he's always a guy you can depend on. But like, especially yesterday, went 4 for 5. Yeah, just I think you had a lot of guys step up. It did start a little rough on Friday, right? You lose the game on Friday, you lose game 1 on Friday. We can kind of get into that a little bit. Friday at the start, and it's weird for Kaysen right now to me because in his 3 SEC starts, like that start he had, his first start he had in Nashville against Vanderbilt, like that start, he really, really struggled, issued a lot of free passes, a lot of walks in the first couple of innings of that game. Really struggled in that one. Wasn't a good start for him. He comes back the next weekend, has perhaps his best outing of his career against Oklahoma, strikes out 15, pitches into the 8th inning, only gives up 1 walk. His command is on point. He was dominant against OU, and then he comes out Friday night against Kentucky, and he issues 8 free passes in the first 3 innings of the game Friday night against Kentucky, and just not being able to throw strikes. You can get into his line. He finished he actually pitched 6 innings. Evans did on Friday night, 6 innings, 4 runs on 4 hits, 3 strikeouts, 6 walks, 2 hit by pitches. So again, 8 free passes in the first 3 innings of that game. And Kentucky scored 4 runs off of Kaysen in the first 3 innings of that game. And they only had 3 hits. They only had 3 hits and they still scored 4 runs because of all the free passes that Kaysen gave up. I believe in Kaysen. I really do believe in Kaysen as the Friday night guy, as the Friday night ace of this staff. The frustrating thing is when you look at it, Kaysen has given up 26 hits this season. 4 of those hits has been for extra bases. So this is really not only this year, but his whole entire career at LSU. He doesn't get hit hard off of. Like, opposing offenses don't just rake off of Kaysen Evans. That's not what happens. That's rarely what happens. When Kaysen struggles, it's because he can't throw enough strikes. When Kaysen struggled against Vandy, he couldn't throw enough strikes. When he struggled against Kentucky, he couldn't throw enough strikes. So it's frustrating because you see, like, Kaysen Evans has it, and he doesn't get hit hard off of. That's not the issue. The issue when he struggles is free passes and the lack of command. I will give him credit, though, for after that first rough stretch in the first 3 innings, coming back in the fourth, fifth, and sixth and pitching good in those innings. So we talked about how important it was, especially with Cooper Moore being out, how important it was for Kaysen Evans and William Schmidt to extend their outings and to go as long as they could. Well, for a while, it looked like, is Kaysen going to get out of the third inning? Is Kaysen going to be able to pitch 4 innings? But he was able to buckle down and really show some resiliency and really pitch well in those final, 3 innings. So it really was a tale of 2 halves. His first 3 innings were very, 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 very rough. Like, let's be honest about that. But then he bounced back in the fourth, fifth, and sixth. I believe he sat down the final 12 batters he faced. The only guy that got on, the only base runner that got on in that 12 was erased due to a ground ball double play. So really good stuff from Kaysen in the final few innings. But, man, yeah, if he can just figure it out command-wise, because, again, opposing teams aren't raking off of Kaysen Evans. He's only given up 4 extra base hits this season on the 26 hits he's given up. But the issue is the free passes. But I will give him credit for showing some resiliency in the final three innings of that game he pitched in. Let's see, a few more things. Let's see. Yeah, offensively, you struggled on Friday against a really good pitcher, against an ace in Kentucky's Jackson Jelkin, and you really, really struggled against him. We talked about Jackson Jelkin in my preview late last week about how Jay Johnson talked about how he was, one of the best pitchers in the SEC in Jay's mind. And in Jay's mind also, Jackson Jelkin is a future big leaguer, and he proved to be that. I mean, Jelkin pitched 8 innings through 114 pitches in 8 innings against LSU on Friday night. And he was just dealing. And what he was able to do was just attack the strike zone. Like, Jackson Jelkin just pounded the strike zone over and over. I think he had finished with 7% and like 15, his first 15 pitches that Jackson Jelkin threw, 13 of those pitches were for strikes. So he just absolutely dominated the strike zone and commanded his pitches well. And it was really the opposite of when you look at early in that game, Jackson Jelkin just going out there and throwing strike after strike after strike after strike. And Kaysen Evans couldn't buy a strike in the first 2-3 innings of that game. So give credit to Jackson Jelkin. And I will say, sometimes against SEC studs, against really good pitchers in the SEC, this happens and you get shut down because great pitching usually beats good hitting. Like sometimes that happens, and Jackson Jelkin is a really good pitcher. So maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked, but it looks bad in comparison to the fact that you've been really consistent as an offense for, pretty much over a month now since the Jacksonville series. That was until game 2 and 3 on Saturday. I will say, we talked about Dardar Friday having 3 doubles. Curiel hit a 2 RBI single with the bases loaded in the third. That was good to see because he had that situation, bases loaded, 7th against Oklahoma the week before and flew out to center to end the inning. So it was good to see Curiel come up and deliver in that spot. I will highlight him as well. So you have that. I will say against Jackson Jelkin, it's hard to make him work when he's throwing so many strikes, but his pitch count was like he threw 8 pitches in the first inning. He threw 20 pitches after the first 2 innings. So that was a concern. LSU only drew 2 walks Friday night total as an offense. Only 2 free bases awarded to LSU as an offense Friday night, which we'll get into. Just contrast that with what you're going to see when we go through the games on Saturday and Sunday. I will get into the comments. Uh, AP, thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. The show. Let's see. Randy says, having trouble pulling up comments here. What's up, AP? The last 3 days have been much better than Friday night. That was a tough one. Friday was bad, but you were facing a really good pitcher. And we kind of talked about how after Friday, Jackson Jelkin was obviously the best pitcher on this Kentucky staff. And then you go and take on Nate Harrison, Ben Cleaver on Saturday and Sunday, and it gets a lot better. So let's get into the game on Saturday. Saturday was I talk a lot about playing complementary baseball. And Saturday was the definition of complementary baseball. The best complementary baseball LSU has played in a long time, because William Schmidt and Zach Cowan absolutely dealt on Saturday. I mean, William Schmidt, you look at his numbers. He pitched 5 1/3 scoreless innings, didn't give up a run, only gave up he didn't give up a run in 5 1/3 scoreless innings, gave up 6 hits, 2 walks, struck out 3. Schmidt just amazes me with how he's able to deal all of the time with a lot of traffic, like a lot of runners on base for Kentucky against William Schmidt. And he dealt with a lot against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. Schmidt has been dealing with a lot of traffic on base, but he is always able to come up clutch and work around it. Like that ability to do that. And it's also something against a Kentucky team that you struggle with. I think, let's see, the first 2 leadoff batters in the first 3 innings of that game on Friday against Case and Evans got on for Kentucky. And when the leadoff batter gets on for Kentucky, that's a concern when you look at it, because they're a team that's not a power hitting team, but they like to bunt. They like to steal. We talked about all of that. Just really a pesky team to play against. So when when they get runners on base, they like to create a lot of havoc. And they got a lot of runners on base against William Schmidt, but credit him, Schmidt has done a phenomenal job of working around it with runners on base this season. He stranded runners on base in 4 innings, including he stranded 2 runners on base in the third. Kentucky got at least one. Yeah, Kentucky got at least 1 base runner on in each of the first 6 innings of the game on Saturday, and you were still able to shut them out. And we'll talk about Zach Cowan a little bit later, because Zach Cowan has been fantastic. But the number one thing for Schmidt that stands out to me is his ability to work his way out of a jam. His ability to work his way out of a jam and not give up the big inning is elite stuff by William Schmidt. Zach Cowan came in the game and pitched the final 3 2/3 innings. And man, I'll say it, I think Cowan's been your best pitcher in SEC play through 3 weekends. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal, and he was absolutely phenomenal Saturday. I mean, you think about that outing he had against Vanderbilt on opening night, where he comes in a game you had been really struggling as a pitching staff to throw the ball over the plate for strikes, comes in, pitches 3 1/3 scoreless innings, doesn't give up a run. You're down 10-4 when he comes in the game, but because of his pitching performance, you're able to get back into it against Vandy. Then he gets the final 4 outs against Oklahoma in game 1 of that series, and then he just absolutely shoved against Kentucky in the final 3 2/3 scoreless innings of this game on Saturday again. He pitched the final 3 2/3 scoreless innings, only gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and he struck out 7, man. Like, Zach Cowan is not a K artist. Zach Cowan is not a strikeout artist. That's not his game. That's not what he does. He likes to generate a lot of weak contact. But in 3 2/3 innings, striking out 7 for Zach Cowan, that's elite. Like, I think Schmidt finished with 3 strikeouts against Kentucky, and Schmidt is a strikeout guy. But the roles kind of flipped. I mean, Zach Cowan just came in and was absolutely elite on Saturday. And man, when you think about Cowan, I talked a lot during the season about how he had been struggling in relation to in non-conference. He had been struggling a lot in the first 4 weeks of the season. He had been struggling a lot, and it was kind of shocking and a little bit disappointing. But the way he's been able to step up over the last 3 weekends and over the start of SEC play, he's been elite, man. And like he was awesome on Saturday night, and I just had to shout him out. I think he's been your best pitcher, most consistent pitcher in SEC play through 3 weekends now. And the issue is in non-conference play, you had an issue where he was leaving the ball up in the zone a little bit too much because he's like a change-up heavy guy, and he likes to throw that slider as well. And he left too many pitches up in the zone. It is right now, it is down, 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 really good command, really generated a lot of swing and miss for the Kentucky bats. And just Zach Cowan did a great job on Saturday, and he's been elite in SEC play so far this season. I think he's been your best, most impressive pitcher through 3 weekends of conference play. Offensively, you had, let's see, some offensive highlights on Saturday. You had Mason Braun hit a double in the second that drove in 2. So an RBI double, 2 RBI double for Mason Braun in the second that made it 2-0. And then Braun came up to the plate and also hit a 3-run bomb in the fourth as well. So 5 RBIs Saturday for the freshman Mason Braun. Again, you needed guys to step up besides Jake Brown, and Pearson, Braun, Dardar, Stanny. Curiel was awesome on Sunday, which we'll get to later. And like Mason Braun had a breakout game on Saturday, driving in 5 RBIs on a double and a 3-run bomb. Stephen Milam had a 2 RBI double down the right field line later in the game in the 6th inning, I believe. So on Saturday, LSU had 9 hits offensively on Saturday, but they also drew 9 walks. And this is something that you'll see on Saturday and Sunday. Jay Johnson's brand of baseball, like drawing only 2 walks on Friday, that's not what you want to see with the Jay Johnson offensive team. They can be aggressive at times, but they're also patient and they work a lot of counts. And they did a really good job of that in games 2 and 3 of this series this past weekend against Kentucky. So again, complimentary baseball. You pitch a shutout on Saturday. You score 7 runs on Saturday. So offense and pitching were both clicking, and that was great to see. Sunday's game, before we get into that, Sunday's game was absolutely wild. Sunday's game was absolutely wild, but I want to get into some of the comments. Let's see. There's AP. There's Randy. There's Paul. Thank you guys for in the chat. I appreciate all of you guys. Let's see. Let's get into what happened in the game on Sunday. So Sunday's game was absolutely insane, and it started really, really bad. You went down 7-0 after the conclusion of the top of the 3rd inning. Gavin Guidry got the start, and I originally said I thought Zach Cowan should get the start. But Cowan pitches on Saturday. You give Guidry the start Sunday because, again, Cooper Moore is going to be out for a couple weeks with that tricep injury. Guidry just goes 1 1/3 innings Sunday, gives up 6 runs on 3 hits with 2 strikeouts and 4 walks. Look, I love Gavin Guidry. I love him as a bullpen arm. I love him out of the bullpen in a closer role. I don't think he's a starter for you. I don't think he should be a starter for you. I think he's great coming in games late because of the energy and the fire that he brings as a closer. I think he does a great job of that. But as a starter, I just like him better out of the bullpen. I like him a lot better out of the bullpen, quite frankly. And I think you should throw Zach Cowan next Sunday. against Tennessee in game 3 of that series. I would move Cowan to that role because, again, I think he's been your best pitcher through 3 weekends of SEC play, conference play, through 9 games so far. And Guidry, again, you're talking about kind of similar to the game Evans pitched to start on Friday, just guys not coming in and throwing. Like Gavin Guidry gave up 6 runs on only 3 hits. Like that's because of 4 walks. Like he walked in 2 runs. He hit a couple of batters as well. Just really, really struggled with command. Guidry did, and kind of similar to what Evans did. You're given a little bit too much in command wise, because again, like Kentucky scored 4 runs in the first 3 innings against Case and Evans on Friday on just 3 hits, and then they scored six runs in the first 1 1/3 inning Sunday against Gavin Guidry, only on 3 hits because you really struggle with command. I mean, Santiago Garcia, who came in for Guidry, also struggled with command a little bit. Garcia only threw 35% strikes. Connor Benj only threw 40% strikes. So you had an issue with command early from the guys that came in for you early. But you go into the bottom of the 3rd down 7 runs, down 7-0. And after the conclusion of the top of the 3rd, so from the bottom of the 3rd on, LSU outscored Kentucky 17-3. It was awesome to see. And it started in the 3rd inning where you scored 6 runs in the 3rd inning. There was a walk, a Jake Brown single, then another walk. Then the first run of the game for LSU scored on a fielder's choice ground out hit by Derek Curiel. And then, man, you just talk about the guys I pointed earlier stepping up. John Pearson steps up the plate and hits a grand slam to get LSU right back into this game and make it 7-5 when it was 7-0 to start. Man, John Pearson and Seth Dardar write them in Sharpie in the lineup for at least the next couple of weeks. If they start to struggle, then maybe. But like what Pearson and Dardar have been able to do, Pearson at 3rd base and Dardar at 2nd base, I've been really, really impressed with. And Pearson got you back in that game with a grand slam to make it 7-5. Then Stephen Milam later in the 3rd hit a double, and that was followed by a Dardar RBI single to make it 7-6. I mean, Dardar is just, again, he was the best player on the field this weekend in my mind. I would say Cooper Williams did a nice job in the 4th. He didn't give up a run in the 4th. He struck out 2 UK batters. Cooper Williams did. And it was really, really important because he gave up 7 runs in the first 3 innings of that game on Sunday. And then you put up 6 runs, but you're like, oh no, now the pitching is coming back out and they haven't started well. And you got to shut down inning. You scored 6 in the bottom of the 3rd. You come back in the top of the 4th. Cooper Williams gets to shut down inning, kind of keep the momentum in your dugout. I do want to shout out Cooper Williams for that 4th inning. Kentucky did score 3 runs in the 5th inning. They scored 3 runs in the 5th inning, stretched their lead to 10-6. Maverick Rizzi came in the game to start the 5th. Rizzi issued 2 walks. Then Luke Lawrence for Kentucky hit a 2 RBI double off of Devin Sheeran, followed by an RBI single by Kentucky's Tyler Bell. So 10-6 going into the bottom of the 5th. Again, you think that the momentum swings back to the Kentucky dugout. You think and that you have that happen, and then in the bottom of the 5th, Dardar comes up, hits a double in the bottom of the 5th. Stanfield, Dardar scores on a single later in the inning, hit by Chris Stanfield. So again, Dardar, Stanfield, Pearson, Braun, guys like that, just phenomenal weekend for those guys. Phenomenal weekend for those guys with what they've been able to do. So it's 10-7 going into the 6th. Devin Sheeran pitched a clean 6 with 2 strikeouts. Curiel homered in the 6th to start that inning, start the scoring in that inning, make it 10-8. It was an opposite field homer. And Derek Curiel, and what he's been able to do on Sunday, I think he had 3 hits. He had a really, really good game on Sunday, and they were all hit to the opposite field, like the opposite field hitting of Derek Curiel, which we saw a lot last year, which he's been really good at in his LSU career. And like Curiel's got all all the tools. I've talked about it, how talented he is, but he was really good on Sunday. Had that opposite field homer in the sixth. Then you have York and Milam both walked and got on base, and then Seth Dardar hit a 3-run bomb to give you the lead in the sixth inning, and I was just so jacked after that. I was like, Dardar! Like, it was just awesome, man. Just seeing Seth Dardar, what he's been able to do, what he was able to do this weekend, and giving you the lead. The bat flip of the century, like the bat flip of the century by Seth Dardar, what he was able to do in that situation. Um, just again, I can rave and talk about Dardar for the next 30 minutes, but I'm not going to. Then you go into the seventh up 11-10. You score another run scored in the seventh for LSU off of a wild pitch. Then you had another run score in the seventh off of another Derek Carrillo opposite field hit. In the eighth inning, the eighth inning kind of got crazy for Kentucky because you scored. LSU offensively put up 4 runs on the board in the bottom of the eighth inning. 3 of those runs came to score across the score on 3 different wild pitches. Another run came to home to score on an error by the catcher trying to throw a ball back to the pitcher covering home plate. So again, you look at the numbers. It was awesome to see, man. It was awesome to see what you were able to do. I mean, you have, let's see, let's look at the numbers. You have 16 hits in the game on Sunday, 16 hits in the game on Sunday for LSU, and you drew 11 walks. So when we talk about Jay Johnson baseball, like being aggressive and hitting well and raking, I mean, you had 16 hits on Sunday, but like you also were able to draw 11 free passes on 11 walks from the Kentucky pitching staff. So like, just the fight from this team on Sunday was amazing. You go down 7-0, score 6 runs in the third inning. You go down 10-6 after the top of the fifth. Then you come back from that. Great weekend. Again, great weekend for the Tigers. It was awesome to see. And you needed it with what you have coming up with Tennessee, at Ole Miss the next 2 weekends, then A&M, and then at Mississippi State. That's a brutal stretch. So you really, really needed this series win, and you were able to get it. And it was awesome, man. And it was a fun series. It was a fun series. You know, for 2 coaches who claim to be really close, Nick Mingione and Jay Johnson get in a lot of arguments. I will say that they have a lot of arguments there between those two. Over the weekend, and you know, the Dardar bat flip and everything and all of that, but just awesome weekend for the Tigers. I want to get out of here make way for my buddy Paul. He's going live at 6 with his show Walk It Off Talk. I do want to say 2 things. Flau'jae Johnson, what a phenomenal career for Flau'jae Johnson. I know hard Sweet 16 to do, and then you had to deal with a bunch of stuff. I'm back. Then you had to deal with a bunch of stuff from accounts just making up stuff about Kim Mulkey retiring and just a bunch of stuff. Folks, they're AI accounts. Tyler Daigle, BS LSU. It's terrible. Like what these people do, what these people have been doing, like these AI accounts putting out fake information about Kim Mulkey retiring during the middle of the game in the Sweet 16. You got to be aware of those things. We live in an age with all of that. I just want to say, be aware of all of that. There's a lot of fake news out there, and it's really infuriating to see how hard that team worked, and then to have some clowns go and make up stuff about Kim Mulkey retiring, and which is not happening, and just all of that. That's so frustrating. But I do want to shout out Flau'jae for just an amazing, legendary career. Just what she was able to do. National champion at LSU, 4 seasons at LSU. Just what she was able to do. Great ambassador to the community. Just want to shout out Flau'jae Johnson for all she did. And then I want to send out prayers to Gabe Relaford. Gabe Relaford tore his ACL last weekend in spring practice. Terrible, terrible news for a guy who suffered a season-ending shoulder injury in 2025 in just the fourth game of the season. You think he's coming back, going to maybe start at defensive end for you this season, tears his ACL in spring practice. Now his 2026 season is questionable. Just prayers out to Gabe Relaford, man. That really sucks. It sucked to see, and just want to extend my thoughts and prayers out to him. And I know he's gonna be back. And I know that was really, really unfortunate news, and just prayers out to him for sure for that thing, because that really, really sucked. Um, let's see. Let's see. Thank you all. Thank all of you. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, AP. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Goose Sports. Thank you, Christian, for popping in the chat. I just want to say God bless. Go Tigers. Have a great one. Peace out from Babin on the Bayou.